Hello friends, welcome to Edwiki Learning channel. Please do subscribe to get more updates on the DevOps concepts. This video is part of the full course AWS DevOps Practitioner training. Please do check the description below to get the link for the complete full course. Without further delay, let's get into the video. Thank you.
Welcome back, team. And I think the today's scope is I just wanted to talk about how do we install Argo application, right? So Argo is the open source application. By now we all understood that Argo is the GitOps model. That means right, it takes care of your Helm chart and deploy it into your Kubernetes cluster, and it is also doing the continuous sync process. That means it's keep on checking for the changes in the source, and that gets updated in the destination in your Kubernetes cluster, right? And Argo can take the Helm chart from your Bitbucket repository as a source, can take the Helm chart from your JFrog repository as a source. The different ways are there to set it up. So today my goal is just to show you simple how to run a Argo application by taking the Helm chart as a source from the Bitbucket repository. It could be anything, just source changes, right? So I have the Kubernetes cluster running with me, and if I go there, kubectl get pods. So I'm just checking my cluster status and why it is taking long time. Yeah, my command is working. That means my cluster is accessible, right? Now let me show you how to install the Argo application. So to get the Argo application, right, we need to download the Argo application specific manifest files, correct? So what are the two different ways are so far available or so far we learned here to deploy the application into Kubernetes, guys? Like if I ask you to deploy application in the Kubernetes, what are the two different ways are there? Right, one is a manifest file. You take the manifest files and deploy them directly using kubectl apply command. The other is you prepare a Helm charts out of it and deploy the Helm chart using Helm command, correct? So whenever you are downloading any application specific manifest files for most of the common applications like Argo, right? Like Argo, Prometheus, Grafana, these are not applications that you are building by yourself. You got me, guys? Your developer is not writing the code for this, right? All these applications are generic applications for most of the projects, for most of the generic use cases, right? So for these, you can get a direct Helm charts or the manifest files from their portals itself. You just download it and apply it the way how I did it for the the Grafana, Prometheus, and the other stacks, right? Same way. So we can directly go to the Argo website in order to, I mean to say, Argo project, the GitHub project. So then we can download the Argo application from here. So I'm just looking for Argo CD. So this is the Argo CD project, and here you can see the manifest folder. This is where you can see all the different manifests that you need to deploy. So Argo is like a big application, right? It has multiple manifest files that you see here. So anyway, we are not going to do any changes to the manifest files, right? Just take it and deploy. So it's possible to get download the manifest files as a Helm chart as well. Okay, so probably I'll show you how to download the Helm charts directly. So here I can see the GitHub project in order to download the Helm charts, right? So you can go here and download the Helm chart. You see, this is the Helm chart, guys. The chart.ml file, values.ml file, templates folder. This is the Helm chart structure, right? You can just get all of these Helm chart files into your local, and you can create a .zip file out of it. That's how you can download the Helm charts directly from here, right? So that's how it is. So in my case, I have already downloaded this Helm chart from this specific location, and I have the Helm charts available somewhere here. If I look into the navigation here, right? So somewhere in this folder, I can see the Helm charts are available for the Argo CD application, right? And you can see the Helm templates folder, chart.ml, values, whatnot. So I'm not doing any changes to this Helm chart. Directly, I'll go and start deploying them. The only thing is in the values.ml, as you know already, right? The values.ml file is the one where you need to do some changes to the parameters, how you are expecting your Helm chart has to be get deployed, correct? So in the values.ml, there are few things that we need to look after, right? Like how I'm going to access my Argo CD, that is what is important, right? So there is a ingress section. In the ingress section, right, there is a ingress class name. So this is the ingress class that you would like to specify, and based on the ingress controller that you are deploying. And I wanted to, there is a enable disable flag. I wanted to enable the ingress, and I wanted to use this as an ingress class name. You see, this is the host name that I wanted to use to access this Argo CD from outside world. So just need to set up these parameters over there. Then just go ahead and start deploying that. So before I deploy the Argo, right, probably let me deploy the ingress controller. Okay. So what I do is EOS platform repo. So in that code base, in that, I'm just trying to go to the location. I have the ingress controller here, right? So let me deploy the ingress controller first. kubectl apply -f dot. It's a single file. Then I'll say that ingress controller.ml file. So first I'm deploying the ingress controller that will be creating the ingress class for us. Now let me go ahead and deploy the Argo. So I just went into the Argo CD folder where I have the Helm charts are ready. This is the Helm chart. So all what I need to do is Helm install. Let's say this is Argo CD application, right? And use the values.ml file, right? The Helm chart is available in the present working directory, correct? So let me try to deploy the Helm chart. Chart requires Kubernetes 1.23 version. Interesting. So I have the Kubernetes 1.2 is deployed, but my Helm chart is my Argo CD is expecting the 1.23 version, right? Okay. Let me update my Kubernetes version, guys. Maybe I'll go with 1.24. Terraform apply. Hope you are following, right? So currently I have the Kubernetes running with 1.22. Argo is expecting that 1.23 should be there. So I just need to upgrade my Kubernetes version. Let me try that. It may take some time, but yeah, let me try to do the update. So I'm just destroying my cluster. I'll deploy again, guys, with 1.24 version. Or else it is even possible to go and search for the Argo CD documentation, see which version is compatible for 1.22 Kubernetes and get the one. Getting me, guys? It's possible to do that research as well in the documentation, which version will be supportive for 1.22 Kubernetes. But rather that it's way simple now for me to upgrade. Okay. Or else we need to read the documentation now, which version will be compatible for 1.22 Kubernetes. That's the reason. Okay. Well, so once it is destroyed, I'll deploy again so that I'll come up with the 1.24 version. Then I'll try to install the Argo CD software one more time. So while it is going on, right, let me talk about the one other topic called ECR repository. Like so far, I have used the Docker registry to keep my Docker images, right? So it is even possible to keep the Docker images in the AWS ECR as well. If you go to AWS and search for the ECR, this is the Elastic Container Registry. So the AWS ECR is again to store your Docker images only, right? Like a Docker Hub. It's up to you. You want to use Docker Hub registry or you wanted to use ECR registry, right? Mostly the people will prefer to use the ECR registries because it's within the AWS, right? So to use the ECR registries, you need to go to here and create a repository. For each image, you need to create your own specific dedicated repository here and can specify the repository can be a public or private. As usual, right? The private is mean that you need to manage it through the IAM credentials, and if it is public, anyone can just pull it from there, right? So probably I wanted to use the private, and here you need to specify the registry name, right? Uh, let's say this is adshopper.com. Let's say this is a payment app. Just to give some name for this, right? So in this repo, let's say I wanted to keep a image which is related to my payment microservice, something like that. Okay. Just come down and click on create a repository. So now you see that the repository is created, and the repository will have the specific URI, which is the complete absolute path, like which is the complete URL that you need to use to download or push a image to this registry. Let me copy this. So let me try to keep that here. If you look at this, guys, so this is your AWS account ID dot your specific naming convention slash and your repository name. This is how it works. So now whenever you are pushing or pulling the image from this ECR, you need to use this specific tag or the name of your image, right? Simply put, let's say if you are getting it from Docker, what will be the name, guys? Docker.io slash, right? So rather me using docker.io, I'm just using the AWS ECR specific URL, nothing different here. I already talked about that as well, right? The tagging naming standards, how we need to keep it. That's it about my ECR. Now whenever you wanted to push a image to this ECR, right, you need to authenticate to this ECR, right? Let me show you how that will be done. So probably to show you how to push a image to the CCR, I wanted to go into my Linux because the Docker command line is not available in my local system, guys. Because I need a command called docker push, right, in order to push a image to the ECR registries. So I don't have Docker installed in my local, so I wanted to use one of the EC2 server. So let me install the Docker just to show you how to use the Docker CLI to push a image to the ECR registry, not to the Docker registry. So systemctl start Docker. So what I do is I'll just pull one image Docker pull, let's say HDPD. So I'll just pull a image from Docker Hub registry. That image now I'll just push it to my own ECR because we just need to demonstrate how we can push a image to the ECR, right? So right. So let's say how the image with me now, right? This image I wanted to push to my Docker Hub registry, sorry, to my ECR registry. The very first thing that we need to do is we need to change the tag, correct? So this is the image name currently. This image name I wanted to change to something else. So what will be the image name, guys, now? So this is your image name. Now if you do Docker images, right, you see the image name is created like this. So in this the first portion is the Docker registry, sorry, ECR registry endpoint slash and the ECR registry name, and which is the latest version. Now this is something that I need to push to my ECR. So what will be the command, guys, if you wanted to push this image to your ECR? Now you just use docker push, specify your image, and that should work, right? The only thing is the docker push command is same, and this is my image that I wanted to push, and it automatically understands that this is the ECR registry where it has to push. The only thing is we need to log in, correct? You see, no basic auth credentials. So how will you log into this ECR, guys? So in general, the command is docker login, right? Docker login is the command where you need to give the username and password, then it will authenticate. By default, the Docker login will be logging into the Docker registries. But now I don't want it to log into the Docker registries. I want it to log into the ECR registries. So now let's see how to authenticate the ECR from your Docker commands, correct? So the first thing that you need to have you know, we need to have the access to the ECR. So ECR is the AWS service, right? If you need to authenticate the ECR, you need to have the IAM permissions are granted, correct? So let's say currently I'm trying to run the commands on my EC2 instances, right? So then it is even possible to grant the IAM permissions using the IAM role concept, correct? So what I can do, right? I'll just try to attach a IAM role so that IAM role will have the access to the ECR because I'm trying to run the commands in the EC2 instance. The EC2 instance can have the IAM role that have the access to the ECR. So let me attach the IAM role to get the permissions. So probably actions, security, modify the IAM role. Maybe I'll just select the EC2 global role, update the role. Now let me go and check the IAM global role has the enough permissions. So I'll just go to the role concept here and let me search for EC2 global role. Do I have the access? I don't have access, right? Let me add a permission, attach the policy. So pretty much we can search for the ECR here and give the only ECR permission, or I can even just give some administrative access for now. Done. So now we need to run the command, right, in order to authenticate the ECR from your EC2 instances. So let me show you the process now. There are two-step approach that you need to follow here, right? I'll try to get the steps here. Can you tell me the, can you give me a commands to authenticate AWS ECR using Docker login, right? So I got something here. Let me copy the command. Let me keep it in my notepad file just to see what this command is all about. You see here, AWS ECR get login password, and this is the region. Let's say this is US hyphen east hyphen 1, right? So let me run this command to see what will happen, guys. So AWS ECR and get login password and the region name, and let me hit enter. You see, so this AWS ECR get login password command is actually giving you one password, right? This is called as a password. This whole bunch of the random text that are came as output, right? This is called as a password. This password that we need to use for logging into the ECR. So the first step is we need to get the password by running AWS ECR command. To run this AWS ECR command, it need the IAM permissions. Getting this? Since I have already given the IAM role attached to this EC2 server, so I'm able to run ECR command here and able to get the password. This password you need to use for authenticating to the ECR. So, but if you see here, right, I'm using the pipe symbol. So whatever the password that I get it here, this password I'm actually giving to the Docker login command. The default username is AWS, and it is going to get the password uh, from the previous command. And this is my account ID, and this is region US hyphen east hyphen 1, or I can get it here only, right? So this one, right? This is my ECR repo. So I can mention that here. So this is now the command for me. Let me copy this command. Let me run this command here. Now you see that the login is succeeded. Now let me try to push my image. Docker images. So this is the image that I wanted to push. Docker push, specify the image tag. Now you see that it is actually pushing the image to this particular ECR registry. Are we good on this? So just a simple process. Just need to get the login password and use that for login, and just push it to your registry. Now if you go back to the AWS ECR and just go into this repository, you see that the image with the tag latest is already pushed, and this is the timestamp when the image is pushed. That's it. If you want to use this image wherever you wanted to, again the same command, the way how you did it, docker push, you need to use a docker pull command. My cluster is still going down. So probably give me a second, guys. I thought the Kubernetes version is compatible. So probably I need to clean up my load balancer. Then only the Terraform can destroy my cluster. I can deploy this again once the cluster is back with the latest version. So to make the things faster, I can even go and delete the VPC manually, so that things will be speed up to destroy my cluster related dependencies, everything. Yeah, I think let me wait for some time. Yeah, now it is destroying the VPC. Let me try this now. Delete the VPC, delete, done. Yeah, now let me run Terraform apply. Well, so let me, yeah, now the Terraform will be in a continue, right, in the backend. So we'll wait for 10 more minutes so that the cluster will be ready with the version called 1.24. So now coming back to the ECR concept, guys, this is how we need to use the ECR repository, right? Now let's say I wanted to use this image in order to deploy my application, right? So how will you do that? Correct. So if you are using the manifest file, maybe I'll use a simple manifest file to deploy the application by taking the image from the ECR registry, correct? So let me generate some simple manifest file, guys. Can you give me a simple manifest file to pull image from ECR and deploy? Right. So let me copy this code and let me try to prepare the syntax, guys. Maybe I'm just trying to create a new file. This is the deployment manifest file that I'm trying to prepare. I just got it from my ChatGPT. So this is my deployment name. It can be any name that I like it. Replica count, I just need one. So let's say this is my web application. This is the label. This is the name of the container. Now you see, guys, this is where I need to specify the image, right? So where is the image now? Now my image is here, correct? So this is my image registry. So I need to specify that here. Previously it was like docker.io and now I'm just putting this one, correct? Are we good on this? Now if we use this manifest file, it will pick up the image from this ECR registry and it will be get deployed. But the part is, right, how would it use the credentials for deployment, correct? Now if you use this, if I take this manifest file, let's say deploy.yaml file, right? Deploy.yaml file, let's say kubectl apply -f deploy.yaml file. Interesting. I don't have kubectl now. Sorry, my cluster itself is not ready anyway, right? I can't do that anyway. So my cluster should be up and running. While the cluster is up and running, right? Let me talk about the concept, right? So the manifest file, I said that, hey, you go and pull the image from this registry, correct? So sometimes how it will authenticate to this repository, correct? I need to supply the credentials, right? If you are running manually a Docker pull command, then it is okay. But when you deploy this, Kubernetes is trying to pull the image automatically, right, in the backend. So we need to supply the credentials. Help me, guys, in the chat window. How are we going to supply the credentials to the Kubernetes to pull the image from the ECR registry? Any clue? Can you give me a secret file for pulling the image from AWS ECR. I think the other day I told, right, that Kubernetes has a concept called secrets in order to store the credentials, correct? It's not about AWS config, guys. This is the Kubernetes concept, right? The Kubernetes is going to download the image. So the Kubernetes will use the secret concept, right? So let me show you that. Yeah. So you see that it is suggesting that you run the command called AWS ECR get login password command, and you get the password, and that password you give it in the in the secret definition. So all what you need to do is let me copy this manifest file to create a secret. So probably I'll just replace this, right? So the kind is secret, and I'm just creating the secret. The type is docker config JSON. That means I'm creating the docker secrets here, and this is where we need to specify your your ECR password. So how do I get the ECR password, guys? You'll get the ECR password by running the command called AWS get ECR, correct? Let me run this command again. So I just wanted to run it in US-east-1, correct? So this is the password that I received, which is in the encrypted format because I have used the base 64 here. So all what you need to do is copy this password, which is in the base 64 encoded format, and keep that password here. You see, this is the section. So let me keep the password here, save it. That's it. Now the AWS secret is ready. This, if you create a, if you apply this secret file, then you will get a secret with the name called AWS ECR credentials. And this secret you need to use, or you need to tell to Kubernetes, hey, use this secret, right, to pull the ECR registry, right? So how are you going to tell that this is the secret that it has to use for pulling the images from the registry, correct? So for that, if you look into the ChatGPT answer again, right, you see somewhere in the deployment manifest file, right, you need to add the syntax called image pull secret and specify the name of the secret name. Let me copy the syntax. It should be in the level of container. So in the deployment manifest file, right, in the deployment manifest file, you need to specify this. That means the required credentials to authenticate this ECR is available in this on Kubernetes secret. Use this secret in order to pull the images. Are we good on this, guys? So then when you use this deployment manifest file and you deploy, the Kubernetes will go to this secret. It will read that encoded password. It will decrypt it, and it will authenticate to this ECR. It will pull this image. Then that will be get deployed it into your cluster. So that's how the secrets will be used in the Kubernetes, and this is one of the example how we can integrate the secrets and use the secrets in our deployment manifest file to pull the images from the ECR. Are we good on this? Well, so my cluster, that is about the ECR, guys. It's very easy, right? So nothing, uh, because we already know about the Docker concept. ECR is just a matter of it's just a different way of connecting to the ECR, right? Nothing much. Now, so I think once my cluster is ready, then I'll show you how to install the Argo application as well. Look like it is almost done. So while that is happening, I would like to bring up one presentation that I would like to go over. Yeah, look like we are almost done, guys. The cluster will be ready in next 1 or 2 minutes, it seems. Well, so the cluster is ready. So it's good that we covered the ECR concept while the cluster is coming up. AWS EKS update hyphen kube config hyphen hyphen name ed hyphen EKS hyphen 0 hyphen hyphen region US hyphen east hyphen 1 done. Once that is done, let me deploy the ingress controller. So let me run kubectl apply hyphen f and let me deploy the ingress controller. Well, that is done. Now let me deploy the Argo, right? So let me go to the location where the Argo CD Helm charts are available. So it will be under EOS platform repository code base, and I think Argo CD. Let me clear the screen. Let me verify the Helm charts. Yes, I have the Helm charts ready over there. Let me run the command called Helm install. I wanted to deploy Argo CD application using the values.ml file. The charts are available in the present working directory. This is the Argo CD Helm chart itself, right? Now let me try to run this. So I'm just getting some output here and look like the Argo CD is deployed, and I can see that it is deployed it into the default default namespace. That is fine. It is deployed and it is giving you some important notes as well, how you can access your Argo CD UI application by running some commands. That is fine. And let's say if you are using the ingress and you know uh, the steps are documented here, how you can use the ingress and all, right? So that is fine. And you can even see here that this is the command that you need to use to get the initial password to logging into the Argo. Let me try to run this command if I can get the initial password that I can use for logging into Argo. I'm just following the documentation what I have received here. You see that I got this right. This could be a initial password that I need to use. Let me copy this password. Let me save it here for now, right? So now what I do is kubectl, right, and get the ingress. Okay. So kubectl get ingress, and you see that now argocd.edshopper.com will be accessible, right, and will be pointing to this load balancer. Let me update the route 53 accordingly, correct? Whatever I'm doing here, we already covered all these concepts, right, before, guys? Yes or no? Like deploy the application, access it over the ingress controller, same concept, we're just using in a different way, nothing much. So let me go to edshopper.com. Look like I don't have a record for that. Let me create a record. argocd.edshopper.com should be pointing to this particular load balancer, right? Good. Let me create a record. Now let me try to access this application. argocd.edshopper.com. So look like it is accessible. Advanced, click on proceed. Issues. Look like it is having some issues with the certifications. It is trying, it is actually redirecting to HTTPS traffic where we don't have SSL certificates enabled, right? So that could be the reason why it is having some issue at this time. That is fine. I can access it over the other process as well. Let me try to use K9s. So it's not accessible here, guys, because it is going for HTTPS and we don't have the SSL certificates. You all know, right, how to deploy the SSL certificate, right? Generate the certificates from AWS certificate manager, map it to the load balancer, right? That's okay. For now, let me try to use the other way. So from the K9s, let me go to the default namespace. Let me go to the service, and this is the Argo CD service that I wanted to access. So the way how we did the port mappings in the Docker concept, we can do the port mapping here as well, right? To do the port mapping, the command is Shift F. Yeah. So I'm just doing the port mapping to the port number 8080. So hit enter. Now the port mapping is enabled. So I can access the Argo CD from my local saying that localhost colon 8080. So this is how the Argo UI will be look like if you access it from your even the actual URL as well. So the default username will be admin, and this is the initial password, right, which you have captured some time back. Let me give the password there and let me try to logging into Argo. So this is how the Argo application will look like the first time when you logging into the Argo application, guys. Now, what is our goal? Why we have come into the Argo here? The goal is now onwards, if any other applications that I wanted to deploy it into the Kubernetes, I want the Argo to take care of, correct? Correct. So now I need to tell to Argo that, hey Argo, my Helm charts are there in so Bitbucket repository. Can you take them and deploy it into my Kubernetes cluster? That's the goal, correct? So let's say I'll just take some like in order to tell to Argo that where the Helm charts are there, how to deploy, where to deploy. To tell all of these, right, we need to deploy one other configuration, which we call it as a Argo application configuration. I'll show you that now. So I'll just bring up that file, guys. Yeah, here you go. So this is the manifest file that we need to deploy now. The kind is always application, right? The kind is application, and we need to specify the name of the application. Let's say this is for a shopper application, right? We need to deploy it into Argo CD namespace because my Argo CD is currently running in the Argo CD namespace only. It has its own namespace, right? And you see the source section. This is where you need to tell exactly, right? It has to get the Helm charts from which repository, right? And I just have some repository here. So it will go to that repository. It will get the Helm charts from there. So in the source section, whether you give the Bitbucket repository as a source or you give the JFrog artifactory as a source is up to you. Whichever the source that you mention, Argo will just go to that location, get the Helm charts and deploy. So this is just the internet location or the endpoint from where it has to get the Helm charts. The target revision in the sense always get it from the master branch if it is a Bitbucket repository. And the path is mean that in this Bitbucket repository, it has to get the Helm charts from which folder location. Let's say here I'm mentioning that apps is the folder where it has to look for, right? That's the location that it is looking for. So let's see what is there in this repository in order to understand exactly. I'll copy that. Let me go to the repositories and search for the repository. Really? Did I remove it? I can even pick up the different things. So I have it here, guys. Okay. Because most of the things are we already discussed, right? That's the reason I just don't want to spend time in putting a line by line preparation. That's why I'm just using the existing ones, right? Because I'm just repeating the stuff. So here I can see the Argo Helm test repository in my Bitbucket repository. So this repository URL, right, from where it has to get the Helm charts, that URL we need to give as a source, and it has to get it from master branch. And you see that apps folder. Inside the apps folder, we have the basic Helm charts, right? And we have the chart.ml, values.ml, something like this. So that is what I have mentioned here. So right, so go to the apps folder, then get the values.ml file, and from that values.ml file deploy. Where it has to deploy, whatever the Helm chart that it gets from this location, right, that has to be get deployed it into this particular Kubernetes cluster, it into the specific namespace. Whichever the namespace that you mention here, it will be get deployed it into that namespace. If you say dev namespace, so it gets the Helm charts from this location and it deploy it into the dev or whatever the namespace that you call out here. So this is the Kubernetes server where it has to deploy, right? By default, right, your like in this case, right, the Argo is running in the same cluster where I'm expecting it to deploy it into the same cluster, right? So then it will be a Kubernetes dot default dot svc. So that's the default, the location where it has to be. So pretty much this is called as a service name, not much. Even if you look into the kubectl get service, right? So you see that there will be a service name called Kubernetes, which is running in the default namespace. That is what is mentioned here. So right, so this is how we need to connect the Kubernetes service and get deploy it into the default VPC. That's how we can mention the things, right? So let me try to do this. kubectl apply -f, let's say Argo application. kubectl ns. Okay, got it. So I deployed my Argo CD in the default namespace, right? So that could be the reason. So the namespace could be a default. Let me deploy this Argo application again. right? So now if I go back to my Argo UI, where is Argo? Right, in Argo UI, you see that there is one application is created. So this application is now responsible to deploy any Helm chart that it found right in this in the location that you mentioned. Following me, guys? So in the manifest file, right, you mentioned that this is the Bitbucket location, this is the main branch, this is the path, right? Get this file. So it gets the Helm charts from this location and will be get deployed it into the default namespace. That is what is the configuration that I have added for my Argo. That's it. Now onwards, if you put anything in this apps location, it will just pick it up from there. So let me see here. Currently, it is giving some error. Usually, if you go to the application section, you will see the application that you created. And if you click on that, it is giving some error. It's just saying that authentication is required because it has to connect it to the Bitbucket repository, right? So it is saying that, hey, we are not able to access the Bitbucket repository. Now Argo has to authenticate. Argo has to log into the Bitbucket repository, right, in order to get or download the Helm charts from the Bitbucket repository. So we need to add the credentials now. I can go to the settings, go to the repositories, connect it to the repository, HTTPS. Let me give my repository URL. This is the repository that it has to connect, right? So this is the repository URL. The username is dpt real time. Let me get the password, guys. So I think I need to generate the password. So this is the password that I wanted to use. I'll just mention that as a password here, and let me try to create a password here. Yeah. So now you see that the connection is successful. Now, if I go back to the application again here, right, let me come here. So it is still showing the error that the connection is required. And you see that 3 minutes ago, the error was triggered. All what you can do, right, let me try to click on this sync. When you click on the sync here and just click on sync, it will try to refresh the things. Or you can do the refresh here as well. Okay, now I'm getting the different error. This is fine. So it is complaining that, hey, why it is going for ED? Somehow it is using my previous configuration. It is going for my JFrog repository. Let me see what is there in this repository, guys. I'll go to the repository. So my intention is just to show you what is Argo, how we actually set it up. So most of the times the setup might be there. All what we need to do is how it is working. So now Argo will take care of deploying the applications for you. So this is the problem. It has some details here. Let me remove that. So somewhere I mentioned that get the Helm chart from the JFrog. Okay, let me remove that. So the good thing is the moment when you update the repository, the Argo will take it up. You see, I just updated my Bitbucket repository, right? Argo will get that changes. So in Argo, you can just sync, or you can just refresh. Even if you are not doing, not a problem, Argo will try to get the changes from Bitbucket repository automatically, right? Very often. Now you see that the auto sync is enabled. It is all sync. No errors are found here. It's all good. So now the Edge Shopper is the application which takes care of deploying the applications into your cluster, right? So this is the configuration that it has. Now, so what I can do, right, simply to test this behavior. So I'll just try to put one Helm chart in this location. Okay, of course I have the Helm chart now, but I don't have any templates, right? It's better to keep some templates, some deployments files and all, then we'll definitely test how it is working. So to do that, let me clone this repository to my local and let me update this. Let's say my Argo setup is all completed. I just wanted to deploy my application. So how am I going to deploy my application, right? So let me show you that now. So all what is happening, right? I'll just try to clone my repository. I'm just cloning my repository. Again I need a password, guys. I did not save the password, the one which I created just now. I may need to generate it again. So let me copy this password. Let me supply this password. Maybe I'll keep the password here. Yeah. So now I can go to the repository, right? I'll just try to create a folder called templates. Inside the templates, I'll create a file called deployment.yaml file. Now you keep the deployment file there. So let's say this is my deployment manifest file. Let me keep the deployment manifest file here. For now, let me remove these credentials. Maybe I'll just simply get HTTP image. I'm not pulling it from ECR, guys. I'm just pulling it from Docker registry, because again ECR I need to create a secrets, update it, all the things are there. I just wanted to simply test the Argo how it works. So I just kept my manifest files in the templates folder. My things are ready. Let me try to deploy. So cd Argo Helm chart, Helm test, git add, git commit. Let's say Helm charts updated, git config, user.name, git config, user.email, git commit, git push origin. Right, so the expectation is the moment when you update your repository, Argo will take the changes and it will be get deployed. Okay, let me update the password. Actually, I updated the Helm chart in my Bitbucket repository, right? I updated my Helm charts to my Bitbucket repository. Now, if I go to Argo, maybe if you wait for some time, Argo will automatically take the changes and it will be get deployed. If you want it to quick, and you can just go and click on refresh as well. Now you see that it is actually syncing, right? As part of this sync process, Argo is actually going to your Bitbucket repository, looking into the source that you have mentioned. It is getting that deployment manifest file from your templates folder, and you see that it is actually created a deployment controller for you. The deployment actually created a replica set controller. The replica set controller actually created a pod. Now this pod is currently running. Are we good on this, guys? No, no comments. So now onwards, let's say if I wanted to, of course, I can show you that pod here also. Maybe here, right? kubectl get pods. I said to deploy it into a default namespace, right? You see, web app is currently running in the default namespace, which is deployed 60 seconds ago, which is running good. Why it is running in the default namespace, right? I said it has to deploy it into default namespace, whatever the charts that it is finding it in the repository. That is, I configured the Argo application. Now let's say, of course, Argo is doing a lot of things. In Argo, if you delete this, sorry, not even that. For example, I'll do some change, okay? Maybe here. I just wanted to show you that some details. Probably let me do this, guys. I'll create a secret, okay? I'm just moving this secret.yaml into my templates folder, and this is my secret. Let me save this file. Now let me update it again just to see how Argo works, right? So I'm just doing my changes in my repository, right? Git add, git commit, git push. So I'm actually updating my Bitbucket repository. It's done. Now, if you wait for some time, Argo will automatically take the changes and it will be deploying those changes as well. Now it should create a secret for us. So just to conclude here, right, you will never use kubectl apply command to apply anything, or you will not use a helm install command as well manually, right? So just push your changes to the repos and Argo will take it up and deploy it into the cluster. Autosync may take some time, maybe 30 seconds or 1 minute based on the settings anyway. Are we good on this, guys? You see the sync is started, and of course it is giving some error, and here you can see the error. It is trying to get the changes and it is not able to, and you see the error here. So the error is complaining that the latest secrets that you have passed, right, those secrets are having some issues. Look like there is a YAML format issue, right? So probably the way how I copy pasted the secret is not perfect, right? The way how I copy pasted the secret may be having some issues. That's the reason. Just to test this out, let me give some 1, 2, 3, 4. It should have a proper indentation, right? Just to test, let me give some 1, 2, 3, 4. I just have updated again. Now the Argo will take the changes automatically. So the push is completed. Now let me wait for the Argo to take the changes. If we wait for a minute of time, Argo will identify that there are new changes are came in. It will get the changes and it will be get deployed. If any error in the templates in the in the manifest files, obviously, right, you'll get error like this. So once you push the changes to your repository, right, you come to the Argo and you verify the deployment. That's it. All should be green. All should be in a healthy state. The sync should be okay. If any error, you try to fix the things again. That is what is the Argo, guys. So now the conclusion point is you can use the Jenkins for CI part, so that the Jenkins will prepare the Helm charts. The Argo will use for the CD part. It will take the Helm chart and get deployed there. That's how you can use the Jenkins plus Argo both together for your CI/CD pipelines. If you want, you can use the Jenkins itself as a CI/CD, which I have shown you already, right? But yeah, the people prefer to use Argo for CD part because it's very flexible way to manage. Even Argo UI is very great in terms of monitoring all of your resources. You see the graphical window how it is, guys. It is showing that the web app, replica set controller, pod. I think even it will give you some animations as well. I think somewhere these are the different ways how we can see the stuff. Yeah, I think there is no traffic is flowing on. That's the reason. If any traffic is coming, right, usually it will show you the animation as well, how the traffic is coming from, and it is going from which pod to which pod. All these things will be shown here. Yeah, that's about Argo, guys. The error is 3 minutes ago. Look like it is not synced again. We need to wait for a couple of seconds or minutes to get it synced again. The error should go away. Well, all right, guys. I think that's what it is. I just wanted to cover up something about Argo too, right? Now, while it is doing the sync, right, definitely it will do the sync. We'll come back and we'll visit this page again. So I just wanted to go over with this particular slide that I have with me. Maybe this slide will help you guys. So this slide is talking about the job responsibilities of SRE and the DevOps engineer. Like so far, we spent some time in learning a lot of technical concepts, right? So at the end of the day, the same technical concept will be for SRE role, will be for DevOps engineer role as well, right? There will be slight difference in terms of what SRE engineer will do, what DevOps engineer will do. So these are some examples that I have kept here just to understand the differences, right? Just to go over with this, installing and setting up the EKS cluster from scratch, usually that will be done by the SRE engineer team. Once the cluster is ready, on that EKS cluster, on that Kubernetes cluster, installing the applications like deploying your microservices, that will be done by the DevOps team. Let's say setting up the ingress controller the first time is done by SRE. Setting up the ingress object to route the traffic to specific service is done by a DevOps engineer. Let's say installing the Argo from very first time, setting up the Argo, everything will be done by SRE team. Running or deploying your applications using Argo, the way how I did it, right? You just prepare your application related charts and publish to your repos, and that will be get deployed. That is your role. Like upgrading the EKS version from one to other will be done by SRE, and upgrading your applications related charts configuration will be done by SRE. Let's say if any backup has to be taken care, right, that Kubernetes backups and all will be done by SRE, will not handle much, right? Let's say the Kubernetes cluster is failure, how to recover the cluster, SRE engineer will take care of. If the application fail, a DevOps engineer will take care of. At a high level, right? SRE engineer is working at a infrastructure level to set up the infrastructure, base layer, networking layer, right? Prepare everything ready for you. After the SRE work, once they prepare the required infrastructure for you, then you as a DevOps engineer start deploying your application, prepare a CI/CD pipeline, make sure that the apps are running over there. That's how the DevOps engineer will be playing in general, guys. So that's the reason if you see here, right, let's say, the infra version upgrades will be taken care by SRE. That means a Kubernetes version upgrade, Jenkins version upgrade, right? And what else, guys? Maybe updating the EC2 instance images like AMIs. Those things will be done by SRE. The application version upgrades is a DevOps engineer will be doing. Let's say the developer is giving you the latest code. You take that latest code and you build it and you deploy it again, right? Which is called as the application version upgrades, right? Let's say the infrastructure network setup will be done by SRE, like how one EKS cluster connected to another EKS cluster, how the cluster can connect it to AWS, right? Like setting up the Kubernetes RBAC, something like that. How the application running in one AWS account can connect it to a application running in another AWS account. That kind of the networking is done by SRE. The application network in the sense, right, within the Kubernetes cluster, if you have multiple microservices, right, how would one microservice can connect to another microservice using the cluster IP service? That kind of the application to application within the cluster level, you take care of. Anything that is going outside of the cluster, right, that SRE will handle in terms of setting up the networking, right? You see here the infrastructure high availability taken care by SRE. That means what? What happens if my EC2 server goes down? Who take care of that? If the EC2 server go down, how to recovery that? How to bring the EC2 server back? How the auto scaling is configured at a EC2 server level, right? All these things will be done by SRE. The other end, you see application high availability. That means in that EC2 server, the application that is running in, that is your responsibility. So if the EC2 server goes down, how to recover the EC2 server will be done by SRE, but you worry about how to recover your application, whether my application is came back again or not, whether my application is moved into a different worker node safely or not. You only worry about the applications. On top of the application, the infra layer will is worry about the SRE team, guys. That's how the roles and responsibilities are actually segregated between the teams. You see here, right, the infra observability set up the monitoring tools. That means installing the Grafana, installing the Prometheus, setting up the Grafana, setting up the Kibana. That scratch level whole stuff will be done by SRE. What DevOps engineer will do? The DevOps engineer will use the Grafana dashboards to see the application behavior, how they are working on, how the dashboard should be there, right? That kind of the level that the DevOps engineer will be looking at. That's how the roles are separated, guys. I hope at least you get some sense right now how the things are planned here in the real time. But again, it's up to the company whether they follow these rules or not, right? Mostly the major big companies are definitely following this segregation. Who has to do what, right? Which task should be done by SRE, which task should be done by DevOps, they will definitely follow. But certain small scale companies, right? Maybe they can't afford two different teams to manage, right? That time they'll have only one team, let's say a DevOps team. Hey, DevOps team, you take care of the SRE responsibilities as well, because you anyway know the technology, right? The technical skills are same. So possibly you may get some skills, some task related to SRE as well if it is a small project. But in general, this is how the SRE versus DevOps, guys. Are we good on this? Probably I'll share this slide as well with you guys. So later point in time, you can go line by line, right, in order to understand exactly what is SRE and the DevOps engineer is doing. You see here when I come back to Argo, right, it started off syncing, right? That means look like it is good on the configuration side. It is now a syncing process. So that's how any update that you do on the repo, the Argo will take them up and it will start deploying it into the Kubernetes cluster. That is what is the Argo, simply put. Yeah, again, I'm getting some error. That is fine, but you see here, guys, it is trying to create a AWS ECR credentials for you at least. That's a good thing, right?